Hey everyone, Isho here. In the last video, we explored some fascinating connections between Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, and Hinduism, tracing their histories and uncovering links that many might overlook. This time, we're taking that journey even further. Before Genesis, before the world as described in the Bible, ancient texts spoke of a time when divine beings walked among us, shaping civilization, guiding humanity, and even breaking sacred laws. This video will explore the hidden history of humanity, as told in the Book of Enoch, the Old Testament, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Hindu scriptures, to see if these different traditions are actually telling the same story in different ways. Are there echoes of the Watchers, the Nephilim, and the lost civilizations of Enoch in Hinduism? Did ancient sages in India describe the same cosmic struggles and heavenly wars? And most importantly, what does this all mean for our understanding of history? Let's dive in. Today, we're going beyond Genesis to uncover the hidden connections between the Old Testament, the Book of Enoch, and Hinduism, and what they might reveal about the origins of humanity. We'll compare key events, figures, and divine interventions across these texts, asking, do Hindu and Enochian scriptures describe the same beings under different names? Were the Watchers of Enoch the same as the Devas or Asuras of Hinduism? Where does the story of Enoch fit in with the Egyptian civilization, and what does this mean for biblical history? By looking at the timing of these ancient texts, we might just uncover a missing link between early human civilizations, their gods, and the cosmic forces that shaped them. Let's look at some verses together. From Book of Enoch, chapter 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. From Genesis chapter 6, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they choose. There were giants. From Mahabharata, Devanaparva 188. The celestials and great sages saw the earth oppressed and suffering, and they resolved that some of them would be born as men to restore dharma, or order. From the Rig Veda 1072. In the beginning there was neither existence nor non-existence. The One breathed without breath by its own impulse. Is it possible that events in Genesis were originally more detailed, like in the Book of Enoch, but later condensed? Are the Watchers' descent a parallel to Hindu stories of Devas and Asuras interacting with humanity, like the Nephilim and their intermingling with humans creating offspring? The texts also mention that when the divine heavenly deities do come to earth, it will be loud and rumbling, melting hills as wax. This will be important later, so we'll remember to check back on it. When we also compare the Rig Veda to Genesis 1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, compared to, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. It sounds very similar. There was no heaven and earth. There was neither existence nor non-existence. God breathed without breath, and spiritus in Latin means breath, very similar to the Spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters. When we look closer into the Rig Veda, we also find perhaps the first son of God in human history, Daksha, who was made from the thumbs of Brahma, stretching back to ancient civilizations that may have existed before recorded history. Son of Brahma, Daksha is mentioned in the Puranas as having produced 5,000 sons, the Haryashvas. In the Puranas, we find more fascinating details. The children of Daksha, grandsons of Brahma, or Vishnu or Yahweh or Elohim, are now being chastised for being childish. They were asked how they intended to produce children without first learning about the surface of earth and its circumference. They were warned by a sage that their ignorance could lead them to create too many or too few offspring, so the Haryashvas set out in different directions to acquire this knowledge. Following the wind, they never returned. After making another 1,000 sons called the Shabalashvas, Shambhala, ? They too went to explore the boundaries of Earth, and they never returned. So, an interesting question to ask is, was Adam and Eve an archetype of these children who left Eden and were punished by Vishnu or Brahma for disobeying and not wanting to do their homework on Earth and its circumference? It sounds like an immense task for the first 5,000 children to do math homework on the size of Earth. Why would the divine gods and archangels that came down from the sky bringing technology, swords, philosophy, spirituality, math, and science be so interested in humanity figuring out the math of Earth? A feat that would not happen for at least 1,000 years into the future by Eratosthenes, the chief librarian of the Library of Alexandria, which was 240 years before issue of the Christ. This puts Daksha at anything from 1500 BC to 1700 BC in the timeline, making our human history seem almost accelerated from dumb to smart quite quickly. In Book of Enoch, chapter 39, verse 1 through 2, we find hints at what was going on in the early days of Genesis. And it shall come to pass in those days that the elect and holy children will descend from the high heaven, and their seed will become one with the children of men. This suggests pre-existing divine beings interacting with early humanity. We also find, "And I, Enoch, was blessed the Lord of majesty and the King of the ages, and lo, the watchers called me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven." Enoch existed before Noah, and he was alive during the time of divine interventions. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void." In Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 23 to 26, we find, "I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord." This could be interpreted as a destroyed world before Adam. In the Bhagavata Purana, we find, "Before this creation, many cycles of time had passed. Beings existed in other ages, some divine, some mortal. The Manus ruled the earth, and the Devas moved freely." And in the Rig Veda from earlier, "There was neither non-existence nor existence then. There was neither the realm of space nor the sky beyond." This hints at multiple creations and destructions before the current age, and the Rig Veda sounds like Genesis, a void before creation. In the Book of Enoch, we find that the angels and children of heaven saw and lusted after the daughters of men. They also taught them spelling, magic, how to cut roots, and work with plants. In the Mahabharata, the Bhagavata Purana, and the Ramayana, we find similar descriptions. Asuras mated with humans, just like the Watchers. The fallen angels and righteous angels waged war over the control of knowledge. Great beings descended from the sky in chariots and gave wisdom to men, much like the Watchers bringing forbidden knowledge. In the Book of Enoch, we find the hybrid race of giant Nephilim, the evil spirits upon earth. They're only briefly mentioned in Genesis. In the Mahabharata, the Danavas interbred with mortals and bore mighty warriors, neither human nor divine. In the Bhagavata Purana, we find, "The hybrid children of gods and men became kings and conquerors of the earth." This echoes the same story of Nephilim being warriors and rulers. In the Book of Enoch, we find a connection to what could possibly be Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god of knowledge. Enoch was given knowledge of the stars and their paths, much like Thoth. In the Mahabharata, the sages who walk with the Devas ascend to heavens, returning with wisdom. Like Enoch, Thoth and Vedvyasa, who were taken up to the divine realm. Enoch's role as a scribe mirrors Thoth, both were taken up to the divine realm. In Hinduism, we find Vedvyasa, a compiler of the Vedas and one of the 7 immortals. He is credited with composing key texts, including the Mahabharata and the Puranas. Enoch, Thoth, and Vedvyasa are all sages of knowledge, teachers and compilers. All were elevated to the divine realm, being in direct contact with the divine and receiving insights into the cosmic order. If Saint Enoch is Thoth, more information can be found about him from Hinduism where peculiar objects are described. Mount Meru represents the center of the universe in Hindu cosmology, and many believe pyramids mirror Meru's structure. With stepped and tiered design, multi-layered, Meru aligns with planetary movements, just like the pyramids align with Orion. The pyramid's apex symbolizes the pharaoh's journey to the gods, just as Mount Meru represents the ascent to the heavens, Svargaloka. The Vedic stupas were stepped pyramidal in structure similar to ziggurats. In the Mahabharata, compiled by Vyasa, there are descriptions of massive celestial structures, vimanas, flying temples, and golden palaces with stepped designs. The Mayasabha, a mystical hall built by Asura architect, is described as a radiating golden light and having layers like a ziggurat or pyramid. In many Puranas, there are cosmic temples that resemble pyramid-step structures. Temples like the Brihadeswarar temple follow pyramid-like proportions based on Puranic descriptions of divine architecture. In the Vaimanika Shastra, there are descriptions of flying vimanas with a stepped pyramidal design. Some claim these vimanas were energy-based, resembling the supposed energy functions of the Great Pyramids. In the Rig Veda, we find descriptions of Ratha, divine chariots, used by gods like Indra that can move as fast as thought. The Pushpaka Vimana is self-propelled, not pulled by animals, with mentions of golden cities floating in the sky. In the Mahabharata, there is a Vimana that can fly into space and shoot weapons. Sage Bharajavaja refers to lost knowledge of mechanical birds that could fly. Mentions a divine weapon with massive destructive power with the sound of 1,000 drums, with a great light that could melt the armor of enemies and devastate huge areas. Some believe this describes a nuclear explosion. This is also a reference to the chapter of Book of Enoch, when the gods return, things shall melt like wax before the flame. In the Ramayana, the Pushpaka Vimana was a self-moving aerial chariot described as having rooms, windows, and being made of gold, could fly as swift as the wind and obey commands, capable of carrying multiple people and possibly even warriors. In the Samarangana Sutra Hadara, a later Hindu engineering text discussed flying machines made of light materials, Vimanas described as bird-shaped and capable of long-distance travel. Some debate the authenticity of this following text, but in the Vaimanika Shastra, there are claims to describe mercury-based propulsion systems and anti-gravity principles. It lists 4 types of Vimanas, including the cone-shaped golden exterior Rukma Vimana and the large, capable of interstellar travel Tripura Vimana, and also describes stealth, invisibility cloaking, and heat resistance technologies. In the Agastya Samhita, there is a description of a battery-like device used for energy and mentions a possible form of electrical propulsion. The Brihadiswarar temple in India has an 80-ton stone on its tower. How was it lifted? Some theories suggest Vedic acoustics and resonance technology was used. Ashoka the Great supposedly hid advanced knowledge after witnessing a terrible weapon. Some believe this also includes Vimana construction manuals. The Mahabharata describes a weapon that made thousands of suns appear and could turn sand to glass. The city of Mohenjo-Daro has vitrified ruins. Some skeptics may say it's caused by lightning strikes or asteroid impacts, but that doesn't explain why there is green radioactive glass found in the deserts of Africa. Is the Benben stone merely a symbol, or was it something far greater? Ancient texts describe it as the place where Ra first ascended, radiating divine energy, just like Vedic Vimanas, Sumerian flying chariots, and lost pre-flood technologies. Could this stone of power be the last remnant of an advanced civilization, possibly even used in aerial crafts? The Sumerian Anunnaki are depicted in flying winged discs, similar to Vimanas. The chariots of the gods theory suggests global ancient knowledge of aerial vehicles. When we compare the Hindu sages that were alive at the same time as Vedvyasa, we find that most of them match almost perfectly with the Egyptian pantheon. The seven eternal sages link to Thoth and his divine circle, as well as the Manus, Anunnaki, sons of Enoch, the ones who survived the Great Flood. The previous Manus were described as having flying vimanas, advanced energy technologies, and deep spiritual knowledge. In the Egyptian mythology, the concept of Zep-Tepi, the first time, describes a primordial golden age when gods walked among men, similar to how the Manus guided early humanity. Brahma creates the first sages to pass down knowledge, granting wisdom to Thoth, Ra, and Osiris, all figures that spread spiritual and scientific knowledge. Overseeing the rise and fall of human civilizations, including the lost pre-Diluvian and pre-flood societies. There are strong mythological and archaeological hints at an advanced civilization before both Vedic and Egyptian knowledge became dominant. The lost civilization likely had Vedic-style sages and gods guiding them, used sound, energy, and cosmic alignment to construct sacred sites, and may have been wiped out in a global catastrophe remembered as the Great Flood or Pralaya. So here are some vital questions that we must ask in order to discover the truth. Is it possible that Saint Enoch and Thoth were the same person? If so, what does that mean for Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, and Buddhism? Do the Book of Genesis, the Book of Enoch, and Hindu texts like the Rig Veda describe the same ancient events? Is Daksha the first child or tribe of Brahma, Yahweh, Vishnu, Elohim, Osiris, were there people before Adam and Eve? Why were the ancients studying the mathematics of Earth so precisely, and why did they suddenly vanish? How old is our civilization really? Who were the sky beings and celestial chariots that gifted humanity knowledge, science, religion, mathematics, and philosophy? What technologies did ancient civilizations possess? How did they achieve electricity, levitation, and perhaps even nuclear energy? Were the pyramids inspired by Mount Meru, and do they represent the same cosmic journey? What are vimanas, and how could the entire flying temples and cities exist in the ancient world? Are the seven eternal sages the same as the gods of Egypt? And if so, how does that change our understanding of history? Could the lost pre-flood civilizations have had advanced energy-based structures like the Ben stone that was used in aerial crafts? Why do nearly all ancient civilizations speak of a great flood, a golden age, and lost knowledge? Are we truly the first advanced civilization on Earth, or are we simply rediscovering what was once lost? Perhaps the greatest secrets of our past is not what we have learned, but what we have forgotten. The evidence is there, the connections are clear. If history is written by the victors, then who erased the first chapter? Truth is stranger than fiction. The questions raised here are just another thread in a much larger tapestry. Take what resonates with you, explore the unknown, and question the answers you've been given. If you're ready to go deeper, subscribe for more explorations into these mysteries. Together, we can seek wisdom beyond the boundaries of belief.